So, I find myself often in places that are really empty. So like this beach, there's nobody here at all, not a single person. And I really like that. I mean, I love being with people, and I love community and connection and touch and talk and play. I do love humans. I love being with them, but I also really love being alone and out in places where you just have the stillness and space to see all other life. And it's a funny thing because it takes a little bit of time for it to reveal itself. The little crab, or the insect, the bird, just plant life. And even the inanimate world is just absolutely stunning and fascinating. So it gets rumpled over really easily with human built stuff. It very quickly shouts over any little bit of life that you might perceive. And the mind is so busy. I mean, I definitely have a very busy mind, always thinking in the past and the future. So I'm acutely aware of the different planetary boundaries that we're bumping up against, the total and over exploitation of the natural world, and the many dangers that we create from nuclear wars, pollutions, plastics, EMF, just this complete and utter disregard of the cyclical nature of this life, just creating this one-way stream of mess, poison, that we then just shove into corners of the earth, pretending like now it's dealt with. I mean, in a lot of ways it's mind-boggling, the stupidity of it all. But there's no point in just only opposing it as a them-they kind of thing. And I feel actually really optimistic that even against all odds, I think we can make incredible change happen. It is something that is, borders on magical and wishful thinking. But I think that when we see the possibility, it suddenly becomes a lot easier. It's like those records that once they get broken, suddenly all the other people can break them too. The fast running stagnates at the point where it's impossible. Nobody can run faster than this. This is the world record, and it's been held for decades. And then one person breaks it, and then suddenly so many more people will break it too. Change, once it's shown how it can be done, will come. And I think we're going to see it sooner than later, that a different way of living is possible and is fun and makes sense. And those are oyster catchers. And quite loud little territorial birds. Remind me a little bit of a weka actually, with their loud squeak. But yeah, you see, it's like empty. And then you've got so many people that want to live on the beach. And they don't get out of their houses. They look out of the house maybe and like, oh yeah, beautiful, beautiful ocean and beach. But I reckon it is something to look into how we live in nature. You know, when you have a nice big house, something that is, you know, bespoke and fits you and is out there in nature, and it's got an entertaining place and a deck and fireplace and living room and open plan kitchen and yada 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 yada. How many square meters, how many 100 square meters are we occupying of space that would normally be occupied by all that nature, also the nature that we don't directly see, all the beauty that is present in this reality. How much of it is being pushed aside by our architecture, our design, our ego manifestation? Don't get me wrong, it is beautiful. There's so much incredible and impressive beauty that we create. It's, you know, it's impressive. But it's also slightly one-dimensional. Like, it's not very... doesn't really stack up against the complexity and the multitude of nature itself. You see this growing, fantastic, organic space is often portrayed as something scary, something uncontrollable, something we need to tame, shut out. Yeah, I wonder where that fear comes from. I mean, I've experienced it myself too, but once you start to see the beauty, it's like just so stunning. And you know, you could have explained it to me, and you know, people did. I remember even my mom was like, "Don't you miss nature?" I'm like, "Huh?" You know, she would show me this calendar with incredible nature photography, like these stunning forests and at all different seasons. And she tried to show me, like, look how incredible and how beautiful this is. And I wasn't really impressed, to be honest, as a kid, because I was a city boy. So I don't know what it means, these kind of like natural places. There's something that had to be open in my eyes for it to become really visible. And for me to come to New Zealand, it took probably a year before it finally sunk in, before I finally started to see it, and not just this sort of generic blue and green, but in all these incredible colors. I just didn't see them. Anyway, I feel a lot more comfortable with the idea of us living in sort of a way that is a lot less impacting, where we don't push out as much of nature, but really sort of nestle into it. Like a bird makes a nest. They use the materials that are around. They find a nice spot. And quite often, you won't see it. You won't see their nest. I would like to live that way. I would like to have a house that you just don't see. And when you come in, it's comfy. It's natural. It's nestled in to nature. And within just a short walking distance, I'll find another house and another person, or a family, or a group. I can imagine that we would start living on the boundaries of intact nature and, well, the stripped, bare lands of agriculture, deforestation, cattle ranches, where you can see the different colors on a satellite. Right? The original bush here in New Zealand is dark, deep dark green, lush, and then you've got the stripped piece of land, which is now probably 80-90% of New Zealand, that is farmland, developed. Yeah, I mean, it's very susceptible to drought. It's very vulnerable, and we need to find ways to mend that. And maybe it's not either it's human development or it is undisturbed native bush, but maybe there's a third way where we live in a way that is taking care of the pained land, the stripped land, where we've taken all the old bush, the old forests, and cut them away so that we could have more grasslands for our cattle and sheep. Maybe we can restore the waterways for them to become clean and clear again. Because as it is now, I think about 75% of the rivers in New Zealand are polluted to a point that you cannot swim in them, let alone drink. That's pretty shocking. And that I heard already 10-15 years ago. Not much has changed. I mean, it's gotten worse, but there's definitely no big efforts to change and clear and clean that. That's very worrisome, I'd say. That we think that it's more important to sell cheese to China than it is to have clean, clear water and intact ecosystems. Doesn't make sense. But you can see that we need to find a way to transition from our current system to this more nature-based, nimble living. And it could be something that has to do with how some people will start to move out of the urbanized and city areas and actually live in a more experimental zone, a restorative and regenerative land zoning scheme, where we find ways to live in harmony with nature, and where we get to develop a more cohesive and healthy way of living with each other. Because this could address all the elements of sickness that we are experiencing in our society at the moment, the mental health, the physical health. And we can slowly start to extract people from that no longer want to be stuck in traffic, going to a job to add to the GDP of a country, but actually spend time with their family, loved ones, community, and nature. And we unplug ourselves from Netflix binging and TikToking our way through the night, and actually start to develop these healthy rhythms and habits of connecting and restoring and really enjoying this beautiful nature that we still have on this planet. And I think these discoveries, like figuring out that the Amazon was actually cultivated for a large part, is incredibly hopeful and a beautiful idea of how we could live a way that is more abundant and creative and present. We don't need to be factory cogwheels. I know there's a lot of people that resist these kind of ideas and will come up with all sorts of reasons why things are great the way they are, and why we shouldn't change them, or why we should be pursuing the pathways that we're on. You know, celebrating the billionaires. Yay! Look, we've got the freedom to become rich if we just work hard enough and really put our minds to it. And it's like such bullshit. And it's especially the people that are actually suffering from this system. It's funny how we call it the system, like as if it is designed that way. Yes, it is rigged that way, but it's not particularly a good design that looks at the overall connective tissue of this reality. It doesn't really take into account what we're destroying while we are pursuing our profits. I rather be a non-productive member of this society. I rather not be caught into this GDP scheme and live a life that is humble, basically, and while exploring this beautiful planet and connecting with humans and with nature. I know it sounds all very woolly-greeny and utopian, but it really isn't. it's just one small step. It's right next door. You can just start to make it happen. And as more people are starting to be successful in this alternate way of living, more people will pick up and go, huh, that food does taste nice that you have grown in your gardens, and it's nice to be able to spend time with your kids. And I do like how you look after your elders. It's cool to connect up with your community members or neighbors and friends. It's pretty amazing that you have that time to spend with yourself. Yeah, it's not that far away. So even though there's a lot of uncertainty coming our way, and there are many dangers, more so than most people would care to admit. But the beautiful answers are really close by. And some of us are already living it. So let's keep going.